Hey guys, Eric here. I'm a pastor in Houston, Texas, and today I have a confession to make. And that is simply that I love stand-up comedy. I love it. And that might not sound like a very big deal to you, but the fact is most comedians use a lot of language and tell a lot of jokes that pastors like me aren't supposed to enjoy, you know? And so my producers invited me to come in the studio and watch some clips of comedians that they've chosen, specifically comedians who are talking about God. And they wanted to get my reaction to those clips. And so I'm guessing that my producers have chosen clips of comedians who aren't necessarily Christians. So God only knows what I'm about to see and hear. But let's just jump right in and see what happens.
I loved Christmas as a kid. That's where society starts getting a hold of you, though. That's where society starts keeping you down. It starts with Christmas. Santa Claus. Better watch out! You're not good. Santa's not going to give you the gifts you want, right? Then you find out that's fake. And then you get a little bit older and it's religion. It's like, better watch out, God's going to get you. Right? Then you get to college, you're like, that could be fake. Right? Then you get a little older and you start making money, it's the IRS. Better watch out.
Yep.
IRS is going to get you. Then you get a letter from the IRS like, oh, yeah, it's real. That's real. You start praying to God.
That's great. That was a great clip. That was really awesome. I really enjoyed it because it's not what I thought he was going to do with that bit. I thought I knew where he was going, and I thought he was going to do that same like typical shtick about how believing in God is like believing in Santa Claus. But then he added the twist, right? And I like being surprised by people because so much of life is so predictable these days. And he twisted it up by going after religion first, and he wasn't rude or extreme, which was nice. But then he pivoted to the joke about the IRS. And that was great. And I really liked the last line where he said, then you start praying to God. And I think there's a lot of truth to that part. If you've ever received one of those certified letters from the IRS, you know exactly what he was talking about and the fear and trembling and probably some prayer that goes along with that. That was a great twist. It was a solid start. Good choice, you guys. Santa Claus, I think, is a myth. And the big takeaway is God and the IRS are very real. So yeah, pay your taxes and say your prayers. That was a great start. All right, what's next?
God is great, God is good, and God is obviously Christian. Why else would his name be in the Bible so much?
Right?
Holy I just found out that God is Presbyterian, which is true. Because I'm Presbyterian too. And I'm sorry to the Lutherans and the Methodists. Good luck. All y'all Catholics, Episcopalians, Southern Baptists will all rot in hell.
Oh, wow.
Cause y'all did not pick the exact right sect of Christianity that our sweet baby Jesus would want. God is great, wow. God is good. We thank him for this food. Uncle Ben's jambalaya.
Okay. Now that was objectively awesome. And not just comedically, like musically awesome. This kid, I don't know who he is, so talented. I'm going to look him up and follow his work because he's got a lot going for him. I will say at the same time, as I laughed, it made me sad too. I think as a pastor, just as a person, I've just known a lot of people a little bit like this guy, you know, it seems like he grew up Christian, whatever reason, he walked away. I've known a lot of people with that kind of story. And he sounds like somebody who like wasn't just a casual Christian too. Like he knows enough about it to, sounds like he was all in his faith at some point in his life. But in a situation like this, when somebody's got that kind of edge about them, a lot of times it's because something happened. And I don't know what it was. I don't want to pretend to know what it was that sort of wounded him and left him in this place now where he's using all that God-given energy and God-given talent to mock the church that he grew up in and mock the God that he used to love. That part made me a little sad, and I just couldn't help but wonder like what happened to him. Maybe like me, he fell under the influence of some ideologically driven university professors, whatever it was that led him away. Clearly it left him with a lot of bitterness, and my heart broke a little bit even as I was laughing, because this guy's incredibly, incredibly funny. But I do think his pain is working against him a little bit because it's clouding his comedy. And what I mean is I felt like he was taking that pain and using it to kind of exaggerate the point he needed to make about Christians to the point of almost being dishonest. And what I mean is I've known a lot of Presbyterians over the years. I've never heard a Presbyterian say that Lutherans and Methodists and Episcopalians and Catholics, they're all going to hell because they're not Presbyterians. That's not something I've ever heard any Presbyterian say. And so I thought it went off the rails a little bit there for a second. Now, I just think comedians don't need to exaggerate when making fun of Christians. We already give you guys plenty of good material to work with. We're already weird enough. You don't need to make us weirder. Like, you don't have to go to great lengths to make fun of Christians. You know, it's pretty easy. But that said, overall, I think this guy made his point really well and in a very funny way. And I hope it sits with us as Christians as just a reminder, sometimes we do a really terrible job at representing Christ in the world. And I hope a clip like that motivates us to just do better. And maybe one day, you know, this guy and others like him will see what we see when we see the church, which is this beautiful, but like flawed, but still diverse and wonderful family across the world, full of people trying to love God and each other and their neighbors as best they can. And I don't know, maybe one day, maybe he'll forgive the Christians who broke his heart. And I'd love to see that guy leading worship at my church one day, or at least see him fall in love with God again. That would be my hope. All right, that was incredible. Good choice, guys. Next clip.
Some people think God created the universe. Some people think nothing created the universe, which is the funniest guess. And the nothing people make fun of the God people. They say God doesn't exist. I'm like, okay, maybe. But you know what definitely doesn't exist? Nothing. That's the defining characteristic of nothing, is that it doesn't exist. So what are we talking about? Either you think it's God, something you can't see, touch, taste, photograph, and science can't prove, or you think it's nothing, something you can't see, touch, taste, photograph, and science can't prove.
Right.
But I think we can all agree, if your nothing sometimes spontaneously erupts into everything, that's a pretty goddamn magical fucking nothing, you guys. And ask the nothing people, what happens when you die? They'll tell you, nothing. You go into nothing. I'm like, you mean you merge back with your creator? That's heaven.
That is so good. Now, the other two I hadn't seen before. This one I've seen because a few months ago it went super viral, and this guy's world famous comedian. And so I knew about this one, but look, you could inject this into my veins. I could watch it 100,000 times and never get tired of it. What makes it so amazing is how he so succinctly and clearly exposes sort of the flawed logic of atheism. Ever since I didn't, but scientists discovered that the universe had a beginning, I've seen atheists really desperately trying to explain how everything could possibly have begun without a beginner. And some of them will say we're in some kind of a simulation, but a simulation requires a programmer, right? And that sounds a little bit like God. And others say that our universe was like planted by some alien higher intelligence. But that also sounds kind of like God. And so the more they try to explain God away, the more their explanations point back to God. And it's kind of hard to watch sometimes, atheists offering these explanations. I feel for them sometimes. You know, it's got to be hard to insist on miracles not existing except one miracle, one giant miracle, that something came from nothing. And what's amazing about this clip is that in like a minute, he exposed all that hypocrisy and destroyed that whole fallacy at the foundation of the atheistic worldview. And I just wish I could do that. Like in my preaching, I'm envious, right? Because I talk for 40 minutes and I get a fraction of the way where he got in 1 minute. I mean, he's incredible. And so I know my congregation wishes I was that brief sometimes. I could just watch that over and over again. Fantastic and funny clip. All right, those were three great choices, producers. Thank you for choosing them, and thank you all for watching our first ever reaction video. That was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll have more to come. Thanks for watching.